Don't just live for tomorrow, or just live in yesterday. Just be glad for all you have that's in today. And though you've come through many obstacles.
Hey everyone, Connie here, and welcome to my blind reaction to episode 2 of Cobra Kai. So, if you don't remember, I did a first impressions reaction to this series, to the first episode, and I really liked it. As someone who grew up with the Karate Kid movies, as someone who really enjoys the Karate Kid movies, at least the original ones, not including the Jaden Smith reboot that was terrible, honestly. As someone who enjoys the originals, I really wanted to see where they were going to take this. I was definitely interested to see these characters again, to see how they would be as adults and all. And so far, it just works. The writing, the acting, the everything about it is just spot on. I like that Johnny has become very, just, how do I put it? Disillusioned from the world, I guess. He works these dead-end jobs, these odd jobs just to have something. He is clearly not doing well mentally and emotionally, to where even just the smallest thing that reminds him of that loss he faced at the end of the first movie to Daniel-san, it sets him off. And we see he's still got it, but he is only using his skills to do things like attack teenagers, basically. And they're asshole teenagers and deserve to get their butts whooped a little. But still, like, he didn't need to do that. And so I just feel like he's reached that point where he's just kind of not doing well. Compared to Daniel-san, who is running a very successful car dealership and is extremely well off. He seems happy, he seems to be thriving, and I think that's what Johnny, like, hates about it more than anything. I don't think it's as much as just he actually blames the loss he suffered back then for everything going on. I think that's an excuse he's using. I think in reality, he's just upset by where his life has gone compared to Daniel's. That Daniel is so successful and so, like, big after that, and he's not. He's kind of the opposite. So it's more of a resentful feeling, I think. I could be wrong. I've only seen the first episode, but that's kind of what it comes across as to me. Because even when he's talking to Daniel later into the episode, into the first episode, he's kind of being polite. Like, he's putting on this front, but you can tell how legitimately uncomfortable he is just being around him. And of course, that's escalated when he finds out that Daniel's daughter was one of the people who was in the car that hit his and caused him to need to go there anyway to get his car fixed and everything after it was towed there. So, yeah, it's it's kind of, I feel, a jealousy thing. And so at the end, we see that he's starting back up the Cobra Kai dojo as a way to train this kid who just moved into his apartment building, who clearly needs help learning to defend himself. But also, I think it's a way for him to use as an outlet. And this could be good for him. This legitimately could be good for Johnny, to use this as an outlet, as a healthy outlet to just let all of those emotions out. Obviously, we don't want him to, like, abuse this and, like, hurt the kid or anything, or just overdo it with the training and all. But as long as he does this healthy, it could be great for him. Undeniably so. So I'm definitely interested to see where this all goes. Is he going to try to seek some kind of revenge or payment for what happened with his car? Is he going to is he just going to focus on the dojo for now? And just what else is going to happen? What other characters are we going to end up meeting? And what's going to occur? And I just think that based on the first episode, with it definitely feeling like a full follow-up to the movies, I think that they really could have something impressive and special here if they pull this all off right. And I'm hoping that they do. Now, there's 3 seasons of this currently out, and a 4th one coming out soon, I believe. I believe that's how it is. And obviously, we would only watch like 1 season of this at a time. I'm hoping that this ends up being really good, because I've heard that other characters from the original movies return in later seasons, and that gets me very interested. And I'm definitely excited to hopefully see them in the future. And I know who at least one of the characters is, maybe 2, but I don't know if the second one I saw was like real or just like a kind of fake screenshot as a wish list thing. I actually don't know. But at least one of them I know is real. And so yeah, I'm excited. Because like I said, I grew up with these films. Not just the first one, but all of them, really. And I like all of them, again, except the remake. Even the next Karate Kid with Hilary Swank, even though it didn't have Daniel-san, it was still a good movie. And I stand by that. I enjoyed all of them. And so I'm hoping, again, that this does continue to live up to that. Because the first episode, again, felt very good in that regard. And I'm just really hoping that it continues to. But I don't know. We'll just have to see. So let's get this started and hope for the best. So when the screen fades to black, pause this redirect and go to the description below. Follow the link to the reaction, and after you watch it, come back here to the redirect and resume play. Because after it fades black, then fades back in, everything from that point forward will be my afterthoughts and will contain spoilers to the episode. So, that being said, thank you so much for tuning in, and I will see you at the reaction. And we are back, and we'll begin with spoilers in 3, 2, 1, now. So yeah, I didn't realize while watching that Kyler was one of the kids from the first episode. And granted, it's been a little bit since I watched the first episode. I saw like a couple reactions to it as well. But it's still been a bit since I did. I remembered pretty much everything that happened in it. That wasn't the issue. It's just I haven't actually seen it, and I didn't remember what every one of those kids looked like. So, but yeah, that's the big thing there. It's like Johnny needed to explain that point to him because that was kind of important. Johnny was defending Miguel. These teens were being assholes and actively, aggressively attacking and just bullying Miguel. He went a little far with it, of course, but he was just defending Miguel. He was being a good guy in a way. Yeah, again, he took it too far. But still. So this episode focuses a lot more on the LaRusso family than the first one did. In the first one, the LaRussos were very much a kind of side story to Johnny. And in this one, it's kind of the opposite. Johnny's portion of this episode is more of the side plot, the B plot. The A plot focuses on the LaRusso family. And I'm not going to have all the names down right away, so bear with me on that. But Daniel's daughter is kind of your typical teenager. She has these popular friends. She wants to throw pool parties when her parents aren't home and everything. But you also see that she's not as heavy into it as some of her friends are. Like, she seems to, like, not be as mean about it. And we even see that she does still have a good relationship with her father. There's just some issues here and there. But I'm just wondering where this is going to go with her and her friends. Because at least Kyler seems to have some issues here. He's not, at least from what we can tell, the best person so far. We don't know all the details though. Maybe he was coerced into that by the other teenagers who were there as well. We can't just assume that he's 100% the person who was behind it, or that he was 100% okay with it. There are a lot of people who will just follow the herd in that regard. They will just go with what their friends are doing because they want to fit in. That doesn't make it right by any means, but that doesn't make them as inherently bad either. So I'm willing to give Kyler the benefit of the doubt for the moment. But he did lie to Johnny about what happened, though he might be embarrassed, he might be upset about it himself, so who knows? Who knows? Either way, so we see that Johnny is having to deal with just a completely different situation than when he was that age. The teenagers now are into much different things, and not everything is quite as he would expect, as he would think. Like, even with the birthday party, like with that kid who was playing the video game. He's like, wouldn't you rather go see the magician? We can go get a drink at the bar. And the kid's like, oh yeah, you can go get me a drink, but I'm playing my game. I'm almost to level 10. It's like, again, nothing wrong with playing games, but there's nothing wrong with doing other stuff too. It's like, if he wants to play his game, though, he wants to play his game. If that's what he wants to do, like, let him do it. I feel like in so many cases, parents like to try and control their kids' lives and their kids' interests and so on and so forth, to try and like make a either a miniature clone of themselves or to turn their kids into what they want them to be, to live vicariously through their children and not let their kids have any actual say in their lives. And both of those are really bad. Parents should be letting their kids experience their own lives through their own desires, their own interests, their own whatever. It's like I hate when parents try to control their kids to too high of a level. Like it's one thing to try and like, do things or put in place rules or whatnot to keep them safe and to whatnot, but when you're trying to control them too heavily, it just breeds resentment. You want to have that happy balance where, yeah, you're giving them rules and restrictions and all for their safety and to help them, but you also want to let them live their lives so that they can enjoy their lives and hell, even take part in their interests with them. Here's a great example. My pastor goes to wrestling shows with his kids, with his sons, and he's grown to love wrestling because of it too. He's bonded with his sons over something they can do together because he wanted to take part in their interests. And that's awesome. That is what you should be doing. And yeah, of course, he's still going to have rules and everything they have to follow, of course. Then there's nothing wrong with that as long as it doesn't go too far and become too, like, damaging. It's just like you have to have a balance there. And a lot of parents don't do that. A lot of parents just go with the entire, like, I'm the parent, you're the child, you have to obey me kind of ideology that, again, just breeds resentment. That is not the right way to handle a child in a healthy situation. So it's like, there's a lot of things that could be said about how this is all done. And we even see that with Johnny's kid here as well. Johnny's kid is clearly not a fan of his father, at least. I don't know about his mother, but he seems to be a troubled child for sure. Honestly, more so than Johnny was. And Johnny's, how would I word it? Neglect, I guess you could say, of his son is part of the reason. For sure. So maybe that'll be an ongoing story as well. We'll have to see. But definitely, like, these comparisons are very much being made between Johnny and Daniel. Again, even the way this episode opened is in heavy contrast to where it was with last episode. Last episode, we see how shitty of a life Johnny has as an adult. We see how he has to go through all these like odd jobs and how he's barely scraping by. He's disheveled and in bad condition, basically. And then you see Daniel in this episode, and it's like, oh, he's doing exceptionally well. He's well off. He has a loving family. Everything is all pip pip cheerio. I don't know if that makes any sense at all, but I said it. But in all seriousness, yeah, his life is great. Like, he can just have, like, this nice sashimi for a random dinner on Friday night. And it's like, damn, dude, I wish I could have nice sashimi for just a random weekly dinner. Like, you kidding me? And so it's like, it's wild, the contrast there. But it also shows that they're very alike, too. when Daniel comes into the dojo at the end, you see like he is acting on emotion, very much like Johnny tends to. He got upset because of what he heard, and he was acting on it. And that is what reignited their rivalry. You see at the end there, like, the way they look back at each other, and even the way, like, Johnny's like, I'm here. It's like their rivalry is reigniting through both of them having some emotional issues. And it's not to, like, any really unhealthy degree, but both of them clearly have issues with kind of jumping the gun on their anger and stuff. And it's something they need to work on. So I like that this show is showing both contrasts and comparisons between these characters. I genuinely wonder what Miguel is going to go for in his story here. Because it almost seems like there was like hints that maybe he could end up getting together with Daniel's daughter. Because it was definitely showed that he had an interest in her, but kind of backed away once Kyler came up. I'm wondering, what if Daniel's daughter finds out about what Kyler did and just like leaves his ass high and dry, basically, and then eventually gets with Daniel, or not Daniel, Miguel. That now I feel gross that I made that mistake. That I apologize for that. I just got the name wrong. And she eventually gets with Miguel. That would be interesting, and it could possibly breed in an entire like storyline in that regard in itself. We also saw in this episode that Daniel taught his daughter karate when she was younger, so she presumably still knows it. So I have a feeling that's going to come into play for sure. I'm just wondering exactly where this is going, because right now Johnny's just like getting free chores done by Miguel and teaching him very little, though he is teaching him something, but it's definitely not the right stuff. He's teaching him he's teaching him what he was taught, basically, to be aggressive, to strike first. He's teaching him karate in a way that's unhealthy. Because as was put by Daniel in this episode, and as I had said as well, karate is meant as self-defense. It's not meant to be used aggressively. The only time karate is used like actively in terms of against another person like that is in competition, tournaments and whatnot. And even that has a lot of restrictions and regulations that they have to follow for safety reasons and all. And like I said, I was in a karate class for a short time when I was young. I wasn't in it for a long time. I never learned like a huge amount of stuff. But I was, for a short time, in a karate class. And yeah, it's very much not what Johnny is doing here. Granted, Johnny only has one student right now. The karate class I had, if I'm remembering right, probably around 20 to 30, somewhere in that range. And it was basically like, okay, get into form, and here's what the moves we're going to do today. And it's like they would demonstrate, the senseis would demonstrate, and we would copy them, and we'd do it like over and over and stuff like that. Occasionally, the senseis would show us like specific examples of like different moves they could do and all. And then they'd kind of split up into like different like belt groups and all. like the higher belt groups who learned the more advanced stuff would go off to do their stuff, and I was obviously at the bottom. I never really advanced far, but we would like work on basics and stuff. It's wild that I can remember as much as I can about it. Um, again, I didn't end up staying in it long because I really just, it was not my thing. I got very, the senseis there were, I feel a lot more like Johnny than Daniel. They were aggressive in the way that they even just spoke to us. That was one of the main reasons I ended up not wanting to continue it, because they would yell at you. Like, not just yell like and raise their voice, but like yell as in they would get angry with you. And it's like, okay, this is a little much. And I've always been sensitive, so I just couldn't handle that. But anyways, so I love a lot of the contrasts and comparisons that this episode struck compared to episode one. And again, I do really like that it focused a lot more on Daniel this time, that he was more of the center of this episode comparative to the first one. So yeah, I really enjoyed this. This was another great episode, and it definitely continued off of the first really well. It's setting up quite a few things for the future, I feel, so definitely going to have to see where this goes to get a good grasp on things. But I liked it. Tell me in the comments below what you thought of this episode of Cobra Kai. And for now, I'm Connie, and I'm signing off. See y'all next time.